Hey fellow world dwellers, it's Angry Turtle, and before we jump into this video, first I want to say thank you to my latest Patreon, Redsman. I really appreciate all your support, guys, and I'm really happy that you decided to do it just because you like my content, because there is no benefits for Patreons apart from being my Patreon and on this list. And second thing, I want to tell you about this website, guys, Fed76Info. And no, it's not sponsored, but I found this website and I spoke with the owner of this website, and he happened to be a cool guy leading some Fallout 76 community as well, doing some PvP events. They have the Discord if you want to check it out. And thanks to him, this video was possible because he basically borrowed me all 4 guns that I needed to do my research and to make this video. Then I will link this website into a pinned comment. If you can check it out, guys, that will be great. And now that are the guns that he borrowed me to make this video possible. So you can see blooded, 10% damage while aiming, because we are testing major legendary effects. It's a 2nd star legendary effect. 10% damage while aiming, it's a 2nd star legendary effect. 25% faster fire rate, it's 2nd star legendary effect. Then 50% more watts damage, watts critical shot damage, that's a 2nd star legendary effect. And explosive bullets, that's a 2nd star legendary effect as well. As you can see, all those weapons are exactly the same, would allow me to do perfect comparison for those legendary effects. And this video was actually much bigger than I expected. Before, I spent 3 days doing the research for this video and testing everything. I can say you that hundreds of mole miners lost their lives to make this video possible, as well as almost 100 Scorched beasts lost their life to make this video possible for you guys. I hope you appreciate this sacrifice. And now let me demonstrate those weapons on mole miner first. If I aim with this weapon, I'm doing 181. If I shoot like that, 167. What else is interesting about this weapon? Okay, mole miner, let me move a little bit. I want to demonstrate something. If I aim and then I quickly go into watts, I'm getting 181, which means I'm getting the bonus, but it only applies for very first bullet. If you aim, you enter the watts and quickly fire. As you can see, I'm getting the bonus. It lasts for about 1 second. And this one, bye-bye, 242 with critical damage. And I will show you the zoom on those small miners' health bars and how it actually works in a second. Now let me swap weapon for faster fire rate. That's one of the weapons that's for all automatic weapons is very universal, as it offers you nice boost in damage regardless of your build and anything else. And then 50 crit damage. You just need to hold the spacebar and you are getting extra damage. That's pretty straightforward. They're all weapons very effective versus small miner. And explosive weapon. We'll go back to explosive weapon because it's more interesting than I expected when I started those testings. Those explosions are not as straightforward as you would think. Okay, I will kill those couple mole miners. Yep. Okay, I think that's enough killing mole miners. I was doing much more testing, but I don't want to get you totally bored. Let's see into mole miner's health bar, a closer look. Now you guys can see the first, it was shot with blooded 25, one shot. I put it as a baseline torso shot, and I put it as 100 damage because only blooded effect carry forward. Then I compare it to 10% damage while aiming, and I actually achieve 8% damage increase, not 10%, what indicates that it's not fully multiplicative with all other bonuses that I'm using. I wasn't digging deeper, but efficiency is lower than expected. Then blooded explosive, it as well. efficiency lower than expected. I get 18% damage increase and I'm running Demolition Expert rank 2. Then I'm getting plus 30% to explosive damage. Then it's only 18%. Then it's lower than expected. Then we have VATS critical shot. How efficient the VATS critical build will be, it depends on a couple factors like how often you can get a critical. Is it every second shot or every third shot? But it's still useful information. Blooded 25 is as well baseline because the VATS critical will be just normal VATS critical. Then we compare to Blooded 50. It's 14% damage increase. Why it's not more? I have a video about it and I think I will link it into the pinned comment as well. If you want to watch more about VATS critical and sneak attacks, then I have all video explaining this topic. I will not go over again everything because it will take too much time. Then Blooded Explosive, it was 13% damage increase, what clearly indicates that explosive portion of the damage, it's not affected, but VATS critical. The VATS critical seems to multiply only the base weapon damage, not the explosive portion of the damage. What's another boomer for explosive weapons? But there are some strong sides for explosive weapons, but before we go into it, let's kill some Scorched Beast on the screen, because I killed a lot of them, but I'm pretty sure you want to see how it actually works versus Scorched Beasts and what is better. And I will be talking about my research and what I figure out why I will be fighting those Scorched Beasts. I figure that will be the best option to do. I even put it all together as a note for myself just to know what I'm talking about and do not miss any important information I gathered. Okay, what this Scorched Beast is level 65. Okay, then we'll be hunting level 65 and first Blooded 10 combat rifle. I actually normally using VATS for all those weapons, but in VATS I can get this bonus only for first seconds. Then basically for VATS users, the 10% damage, it's not really as good perk. As you can see in VATS, you are more efficient and you can hit head. But if we'll be talking about different weapons, because it's not only about rifles, I have rifles as an example because basically it's like impossible to show on one video every single possible weapon and compare it with all possible major legendary effects, or at least those 4. Then, what I was doing as well to get Scorched Beasts like this one on the ground. Just let me see if I have the same perks I was using for tests. This is okay. This is okay. Excuse me, Scorched Beast Queen, you need to wait. I wasn't using Hard Bargain. I was using Tenderizer. Yep, I was using Demolition Expert. That's what I was using. There is no too much sneak or damage perks. I mean power armor for consistency, critical savvy. Yep, that's exactly what I have. And how I was getting Scorched Beast on the ground with this pipe rifle, I will show you now. I was just aiming for the wing, and this pipe rifle is aimed to do like close to 0 damage and get the Scorched Beast. Oh, I forgot something. I was running Tormentor, not good with Salt on my testing. That's why it doesn't work. Okay, and now you see I did like 0 damage and I have her back on the ground. I'm not using Adrenaline perk card because I don't want to have my results affected. And now this one I will shoot hip firing because VATS will be pointless. And if you can hold on the head, so you can see that damage is crazy high. You are not getting this VATS critical, but you are getting this extra damage from aiming, what's really good. Then that's a first weapon. It's especially useful for something like a heavy gun, not as much for rifles when you go for VATS. For VATS, I will say I will go for either VATS critical damage or faster fire rate. Now we are going to use 25% faster fire rate. And as you can see, it fires really fast. Even if you don't really aim, you can hit everything. But VATS is much better option to get it perfect. to get all the hits count and to get bonus damage. Now let's swap back to something that will help this Scorched Beast land. So you can see I didn't harm her, I just get her on the ground. Now let's swap to head, and what you can see, this weapon is truly effective. The faster fire rate is insane. It's overall, I will say, in most situations, faster fire rate is the best. But there are some exceptions I will be talking about as well. If I kill wrong level of Scorched Beast, I apologize, but to let you know, I did those tests with every single weapon or every possible level of Scorched Beast we can get, and it's 50, 65 and level 80. Legendary, non-legendary Scorched Beast, then you can be sure that I did a proper testing. Like here we have level 80. We'll kill her just for fun to demonstrate how powerful this weapon is. You can see faster fire rate is doing job. It's doing crazy job. I got my criticals finally done. Oh, this is level 50. Then it's lower than other one. Then you go away. I'm not sure what was the previous one. Then I'm shooting a little bit more with this weapon because it's the best option. But what you are getting damage-wise from this weapon, it's not 25% damage increase overall, because you need to take into consideration that you have downtime related to reload. What I explained in other videos as well, how this affects weapon DPS. Then, as you need to be reloading your weapon. Oh, now I have too much health. Because I level up. Then as you need to be reloading this weapon, want to kill the Scorched Beast, but first I need to get health in the... Yeah, I have the health perfectly fine now. Then let me demonstrate this weapon on level 65, just in case the other one wasn't level 65, and it's legendary. How did Gulper end up in here? Then in case of heavy guns, you will get close. With heavy guns with high clip, you will get close to actual 25% damage increase. In case of rifle, it will be more like between 10 and 20% damage increase, depending on what magazine and clip size you are using. And now we're going for crit damage combat rifle. It's bloodied as well. And the same mods on them. Then it's comparable. No adrenaline in my perks as I showed before. Then there is no difference if I kill couple mobs before or not. And I'm eating just glowing meat because it doesn't heal me. And it keeps my health bar full, what means my health is basically constantly jumping back to 50, allowing me to stay below 20% health constantly, but there is no Nerd Rage equipped. And now we have this level 65 Scorched Beast. I checked this time. Then it's perfectly fine. Back to 50 crit damage. And let me demonstrate. And I'm not using sneak attacks, and there is a reason for that. Usually if you will be fighting bosses like Scorched Beast Queen, you will not be alone. And then sneak attacks will not count. There are other people, sneak attacks doesn't count. If for whatever reason you will be alone and you will be using this weapon suppressed with a sneak attacks, then situation changes. If you will be using sneak, this benefit will drop to like 2%. The famous explosive. What comes with this weapon, there is a little more into it than just straightforward damage increase. Like on those Scorched, I'm getting damage increase. Or all the regular mobs, the damage increase is good. But you need to keep in mind the durability loss on the weapon is twice as high as on any other weapon. What else you need to know? The plus side, the biggest benefit of explosive weapons, this explosive damage is not reduced by range. What means, if you are shooting like a cargo bot is the best example, the bloodied explosive weapon is the best option for you. Cargo bot will much easier with bloodied explosive weapon because he's usually outside of your range, and therefore explosive weapon is much better than anything else. In close combat, the Scorched Beast die really fast, but what you should know, there is almost no difference if I will use just regular blooded combat rifle. The damage increase when I was counting bullets and rewatching my previous recording of tests on Scorched beasts. I don't know if this... what level was this Scorched beast? I forgot to check again. But anyway, it doesn't really matter as much at this moment. I was rewatching my recordings and the damage increase from explosive weapon versus Scorched beast is only around 5%. With equipped Demolition Expert rank 2, damage increase versus Scorched beast is only around 5%. Versus Scorched beast Queen, it will be less. Then versus Scorched beast Queen, you will probably not get any damage increase or almost any damage increase from explosive effect. Now I'm gonna find a robot and demonstrate you this explosive effect on a robot when it's actually very useful. Oh, there is a robot. Two actually, but we need one. He's probably far enough to get me out of my range. If I shoot him, if you focus on the damage numbers, you can see that the explosion damage compared to hit damage is really high. It's like almost 50% on the damage number shown. The actual damage is slightly lower than shown on the damage numbers, but still, when you're shooting something out of range, the explosive weapon is the best. Unless it's Scorched beast Queen, that's pretty resistant on explosions and it's actually not as good anymore. Then, what's my final verdict? There is no like clear winner in every category, doesn't exist, but overly the most useful in most scenarios will be 25% faster fire rate. It's straightforward damage increase, works perfect with rifles, works perfect with heavy guns. The ammo consumption goes slightly up because you are firing more bullets. It's how you're getting more damage. But it's very universal. In almost every situation, it gives you reliable damage increase. Then, for the rifles and usage in VATS, on the second place, I will put 50% crit damage. Just because it will be efficient on everyday basis as well as on Scorched beast Queen and Scorched beasts. But I will mention that if you want to fight a chase cargo bots, I will still hold on to blooded explosive or any other explosive weapon. Basically explosive weapon. Explosive weapon, fighting something out of range, sniping something far away with a sniper weapons, explosive weapon is the best. Explosive is the best in this situation. Not in case of Scorched beast Queen. Fine, all those cars are blowing. I need to step back a little bit. Then, for outside of VATS usage, no VATS, 10% damage while aiming is actually really good. From my experiments, the damage increase was between 7 and 10%. Then it's a little bit lower, but you save some ammunition if you use it with a gun that you are not using in VATS, like a heavy gun, let's say 50 cal. If you use 10% damage while aiming, you will be aiming it and firing, then you will get this nice damage increase without using more ammo to achieve this. And it's only slightly lower than faster fire rate. Faster fire rate depending on the... oh, it's important as well, depending on the gun. If this will be heavy gun that you need to reload frequently, like light machine gun, I will say that 10% damage while aiming and faster fire rate are almost close together, but 10% damage while aiming will help you save some ammunition. That's usually quite expensive. Then in this case, I will even put 10% damage while aiming above faster fire rate. But generally it's just below. Explosive, the same rule. If you want to shoot something far away, chase the cargo bot, explosive is your go-to legendary effect. If you want to just mark the mobs, explosive is your go-to legendary effect. Then it's really good, but not the best damage-wise for bosses, like Scorched beast Queens. For this case, the best look to be, in most cases, 25% faster fire rate. And to quickly summarize damage, 10% damage while aiming, you are expecting 7 to 10% DPS increase. 25% faster fire rate, depends on the weapon, you are expecting 10 to over 20% DPS increase, based on the weapon and reload time. 50% crit damage, you are expecting between 5 and 15% DPS increase in VATS without sneaking. Depend on your build and health. The higher value will be for full health build, the lower value for bloodied build. And if sneaking, you are expecting something between 2 and 5% DPS increase from 50% crit damage legendary effect. Explosive weapon, you are expecting around 18% damage increase, up to 20% if you use max level of Demolition Expert in range, and double up to like 40% if you are shooting target outside of normal weapon range. In case of Scorched with Queen, it's dropping down to 5% damage increase or less than 5% damage increase from explosive weapon. And actually, about some of those numbers and results, I was a little bit surprised myself, but I tested multiple times, it seemed to be exactly like that. I hope those informations will be useful for you guys, because I spent way too much time to test this stuff. And now, as always, thank you a lot for watching, and see you guys in the next one.